Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Maya Pushi Kodani Tai Maya Pusashi Kodani Tai Jaya Maya Pusashi Ishkan Guru Guru Ki Shiva Bharati Jai Shishi Kodani Tai Maya Pusashi Jai Reading from Our Family Business, Srila Prabhupada's pen. During Kartik a couple of years ago, I was sitting on the steps of Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi Mandir in Vrindavan, just after Mangalati, chanting japa, alongside a couple of godbrothers. As we watched thousands of devotees exit the Krishna Balaram temple with bead bags in their hands, one of my godbrothers remarked in amazement, "Where are they all coming from?" I thought to myself, from Srila Prabhupada's pen. Everyone who comes to the Krishna consciousness movement has a unique story to tell about his or her relationship with Srila Prabhupada's books. His books induce people to join the Krishna consciousness movement and empower them to stay. Through his pen, Srila Prabhupada planned to reach the whole world with the most exalted ideas passed down to him through it. When distributed, these books bridge political borders and cultural barriers. His books change people's hearts. They fame to Lord Chaitanya's movement, and when distributed in mass quantity, will eventually conquer Maya's empire. Conquering empires. In this regard, Srila Prabhupada wrote to a disciple, "I am so glad to learn that Satyavrata and yourself are trying to get the teachings of Lord Chaitanya published. You do not know how pleased I am to hear this news. When one book is published, I think I have conquered an empire. To try to publish as many books as possible, and that will enhance the beauty and prestige of our society." Srila Prabhupada often uses military terms to describe his campaign to spread Krishna consciousness. At the top of each of his letters, for example, he specified his location with the word camp, such as camp, Iskon Dallas, or camp, Rishikesh. These seemingly other expressions show that spreading the Krishna consciousness movement is hard, and in any conflict, the victory goes to the army that is best trained, equipped, and inspired. Lord Chaitanya descended to the material world without the usual weapons that both Krishna brings, disc, club, and so on, for killing the demons. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, instead of subdues the demonic spirit of the world creation with his personal beauty and through his associates. And then the competition came. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 19. This is the island of Jambudweep. It's text. Text 8. Suro, Suro, Vapi, Ata, Vanaro, Nara, Suro, Suro, Vapyata, Vanaro, Nara, Savatmana, Ya, Sukritaj, Kyam, Uttamam, Savatmanaya Sukrita Jnanam Uttamam Vajeta Raman Manushchakrita Shishigorita Maya Pashashiki Jai Harim Vajeta Raman Manuchakritam Harim Ya Uttaran Anayat Kosalan Divam Ita Iti Yo Uttaran Anayat Kosalayan Divam Iti Suro Suro Vapyata Vanaro Nara Savatmanaya Sukritakyam Uttamam Vajetaraman Munajakritam Harim Ya Uttaran Anayat Kosalan Devamiti Suro Suro Vapyata Vanaro Nara Savatmanaya Sukritakyam Uttamam Vajetarama Manujakritam Harim Ya Uttaran Anayat Kosalan Divam Iti Suro Suro Vapyata Vanaro Nara Savatmanoya Sukritakyam Uttamam Vajetaraman Munajakritam Harim Ya Uttaran Anayat Kosalan Divam Iti Suro Suro Vapyata Vanaro Nara Savatmanoya Sukritakyam Vajetarama Manuchakritam Harim Ya Uttaran Anayat Kosalan Suro Suro Vapyata Vanaro Nara Savatmanaya Sukritakyam Vajetarama Manuchakritam Harim Uttaran Anayat Kosalan Suro Suro Vapyata Vanaro Nara Savatmanaya Sukritakyam Suro Suro Vapyata Vanaro Nara Savatmanaya Sukritakyam Vajetarama Manuchakritam Harim Ya Uttaran Anayat Kosalan Devamiti nara nara Savatmanaya Sukha Vajataraman Manuchakritam Uttaran Aniyat Kosalandana Shro Bhaktyata Vanaro Nara Savatmano Yasukitagi Bhutam Jaitaraman Manuchakritam Uttaran Aniyat Kosalandana Sura Asura Demon Va Va Api Va Ata Therefore Va Or Anara other than a human being, bird, beast, animal, and so on. Nara, a human being, Sarva Atmana, wholeheartedly. Ya, tu, Sukritagyam, easily made grateful. Uttamam, most highly elevated. Bhajita, should worship. Raman, Lord Ramachandra. Manuj Akritam, Harim is a human being. Harim, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yahu, Bhutan, of northern India. Anayat, brought back. Kosalan, the inhabitants of Koshaldesh. Ayodhya. Nivam, to the spiritual world. Vaikuntha, Iti, thus. Translation. Therefore, whether one is a demigod or a demon, a man or a creature other than man, such as a beast or a bird, everyone should worship Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is on this earth just like a human being. There is no need of great austerities or penances to worship the Lord, for he accepts even a small serve offering by his devotee. Thus he is satisfied, and as soon as he is satisfied, the devotee is successful. Indeed, Lord Sri Ramachandra brought all the devotees of Ayodhya. Responsibilities. Therefore, whether one is a demigod or a demon, a man or a creature other than man, such as a beast or bird, everyone should worship Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears on this earth just like a human being. There is no need of great austerities or penances to worship the Lord, for he accepts even a small service offered by his devotee. Thus he is satisfied. And as soon as he is satisfied, the devotee is successful. Indeed, Lord Sri Ramachandra brought all the devotees of Ayodhya back home, back to Godhead, Vaikuntha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Sri Ramachandra is so kind and merciful to his devotees that he is very easily satisfied by a little service rendered by anyone, human or not. This is the special advantage of Lord Ramachandra, and it is the same advantage in worshipping Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Krishna and Lord Ramachandra, in the manner of Kshatriyas, sometimes showed their mercy by killing asuras. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awarded love of God without difficulty even to the asuras. All the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead but especially Lord Chandra, Lord Krishna, and later Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, delivered many of the living entities present before them. Indeed, almost all of them. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is therefore represented in the six-armed form of Sadbhuj Murti, which is a combination of Ramachandra, Krishna, will be fulfilled by worship. The form of the Lord with six arms, two arms of Ramachandra, two arms of Krishna, and two arms of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Manavishtam Kapitam Yena. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Srivasai. Hare Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Vanchikapa Trubhisha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Dalidinam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnava. So, nice translation. In the translation, it's referring that whether you're a demigod or a demon, a beast, a bird, anyone, even if you don't do great austerities or penances, if you just do a small service and he is satisfied, then the devotee is successful. And Srila Prabhupada really qualifies successful by saying, by going home back to Godhead, Vaikuntha. So there could be some. You can say, well, what do you mean by successful? I started a business for Krishna, and it didn't seem to go very well. Well, I was out yesterday distributing books. It didn't seem to go very well. You don't seem to be very successful. But here's success of being qualified as going home back to Godhead, which is interesting because when you do go home back to Godhead, I don't think Krishna will come looking for you and say, do you remember on the 12th of December, you were in Buchanan Street and you did peanuts? Because Krishna doesn't look at things like that. We look at things like that because we're attached to the result. But the real success is not the result, although the result is also important. It's an important thing to focus on, but it's not the ultimate success. The ultimate success is you may get all the results, but if you don't go back to Godhead, what was the use? So that's the real success. And Prabhupada saying in the book that Lord Ramachandra was so kind and merciful, but he's very easily satisfied by little service rendered by anyone. So they say Lord Ramachandra is the supreme pious man, and the pious man never forgets anything that's done for him. And so that's why Mahatma was making a nice point about if someone's criticizing a devotee, then that's not so good. But then if the devotee is dear to Srila Prabhupada, or dear to his spiritual master, if he's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, then you offend the devotee, you offend Srila Prabhupada, or you offend the devotee's spiritual master. You may be very pleased with the devotee, so better not to. And if someone does a little good, renders a little service, and there are devotees that have come and gone, we've seen in this country. Before they went, they did a lot of significant service. And so from Krishna's point of view, he's remembering the service. Well, things may have gone askew a little bit later on for one reason or another. So it's nice to bear that in mind. Those devotees that have done service will never be forgotten by the Lord. And how the Lord deals with them and ultimately makes them successful. That's another thing. So a special advantage of worshipping Lord Ramachandra and Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Prabhupada's mentioning the Sadhguru form of the Lord. If you remember this form, then you'll be successful. So it's nice to have form in the temple. That was Prabhupada this idea. It was Lord Chaitanya on one side and the pastimes of Krishna on the other side. but the Prabhupada's making a distinction that Lord Ramachandra and Krishna were Kshatriyas, and Lord Chaitanya, he didn't kill anybody, he just killed the demonic mentality. So that's quite good for Kali Yuga, because otherwise, if we were in the Kshatriya spirit, then there's a lot of things we could fight, a lot of targets that could be gained for fighting against. Lord Chaitanya's mood isn't to kill the demons, but to free them, and actually, Prabhupada saying not killing them, but actually awarding them the love of God. So we get direct experience of that when we're out on Harinam Sankirtan, chanting holy names, or distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, or giving someone prashadam, and we're seeing immediate transformations taking place. So rather than before the transformation, the person may have been very aggressive, very confrontational, and suddenly the person changes. So that means we don't have to take it too seriously the way they're externally behaving, and understand, well, this is another candidate who's worthy also for Lord Chaitanya's mercy. That's a nice way to say it. And then how to melt their hearts, how to bring them in contact in some way or other with Lord Chaitanya's mercy. So then Prabhupada says all the incarnations of Godhead, but especially Lord Ramachandra, Lord Krishna, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they delivered many living entities. And then Prabhupada goes on to explain about the Sadhujmati, which is a combination of Lord Ramachandra, Lord Krishna, and Lord Chaitanya. So the best purpose of human life can be fulfilled by worshipping the Sadhujmati, the form of the Lord with 6 arms. Any questions and comments?
That whoever is rendering some service, you should appreciate it.
Yeah.
Just like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he was very, very pleased if somebody would pass one of the magazines. So it shows how appreciative we should be for everybody's service, no matter how little it is.
Yeah.
Of course, we need to encourage and inspire people to do more,
Yeah.
but simultaneously be very appreciative of whatever they do.
So you're saying there's a danger that if you think Krishna's satisfied with a little service, then I passed out a leaflet 15 years ago, so I'm okay. You're saying that could be a danger?
No, I'm more emphasizing on appreciation side, that no matter how little service somebody may be rendering, you should be simultaneously satisfied and appreciative of that service.
So even if you're doing a very small service,
Yeah.
or it seems very small from your perspective, we should still be satisfied, we shouldn't become discouraged.
Yes.
Yeah.
For yourself and for others as well, but at the same time, of course, you're trying to inspire people to go further and do more.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
So there's no like a reason to get discouraged. It's more like appreciating and encouraging people to render more service.
Well, it's interesting actually, because when I first heard that, my mind immediately jumped on that. Oh, right, just a small service. It'll be okay. It'll be fine. I know. But if you qualify a little service, even Srila Prabhupada considered it was a little service that he did. He said, we are so tiny compared to Krishna. So if we're in the succession of tiny servants, and Srila Prabhupada's a tiny servant, then certainly whatever we're doing, so that is the attitude that whatever you do, compared to Krishna, it's a little service. It's always a little service. It's just how little the service is. So it's always like that. And if it's anything other than that, then there's a problem. If you're thinking you've done a big service and you're a big devotee and you're more important, then that's the problem. The problem isn't the little service. The little service is just the reality. That what are you doing? You're one little speck on a speck in a universe full of unlimited specks. It's like being on a beach, and on one grain of sand, there's a tiny speck saying, I did something amazing today. And it's like, it's so tiny, isn't it, compared to the beach? And there's millions of beaches.
I was just wondering whether in the translation, Srila Prabhupada translates this, the Lord accepts even the small service offered by his devotee. And then also at the end, Lord Ramachandra brought all the devotees of Ayodhya back home. So
Well, we shouldn't feel discouraged, or we may feel remorseful. But there's a difference between remorse and discouragement. Because with discouragement, then you want to throw in the towel. With remorse, you want to give the towel a wash and make it nice and fluffy and try again. So remorse is positive. It's not in any way feeling a lack of opportunity to attempt again and to appreciate the opportunity. Whereas with discouragement, you lose the ability to appreciate the opportunity. Like the boy that was running the race and he kept falling over and all his legs were cut, and he was right at the back in the end, and he became really discouraged. But he decided he would just push on anyway because his dad kept telling him to get up and win the race. So when he did finally get over the line, he got a bigger role than anybody else because although at times he wanted to give up and become discouraged, his father kept reminding him that this is a great opportunity still, amidst all the difficulty. You'll be appreciated so much more now because it was so much harder for you to continue on. So the challenge is, can we see that? Can we not become diverted from seeing the opportunity that's right there before us? And if it is difficult and we are weak and things go wrong, then here's an even better opportunity to show because it's more difficult. That's why Krishna, although he's surrounded by pure devotees in the spiritual world, is especially attracted by devotees that are trying because it's more difficult in the material world to do anything. And that's very attractive to Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada slept Indian Maharaj was drinking this trunk up, he'd been through a whole arduous series of services, and then he'd had Srila Prabhupada run out and he hadn't eaten anything. He was tired. He was dragging this big case of Srila Prabhupada, and he felt this slap in his back, and he was really startled because Srila Prabhupada was laughing at him and said, "In the material world, everything is difficult, but in the spiritual world, everything is easy." Because it's easy, it's not as significant as trying to do it in the material world. So you can see that when the odds are stacked against you, things seem impossible and insurmountable. There's a great opportunity now to really endear yourself to the Lord. harder it is for you to make the endeavor. It's like if you go to a gym, the bigger the weights that you're lifting, and the stronger you're going to be eventually. But if you go to a gym where they're using balloons, then it's a great gym because you can do that all day. You won't even work smart. In 20 years from now, you'll just be a flopping guy hanging around the balloon gym. But if you go to the sweaty gym, 20 years from now, you'll be like the Incredible Hulk. So that's the dynamic that works with Krishna. If you're really, really pushing against things and really, really trying, and you're getting strong, you're becoming very strong, and you make tangible advancement. Shiva, which was just saying, it's the fast lane for advancement is book distribution. And Prabhupada said the highest is book distribution, but even higher than book distribution is managing book distribution. That's as good as it gets for making an announcement, because you get the collective result of everybody else. You're organizing everyone else and facilitating everybody else. If that person wasn't there, then you could say, well, how much will get done? How much will these devotees do if they're just left to their own ends, you know? So that's because we're not looking for position or leadership. We just want to render service. But that would be a very advantageous position to be in, because you have to make a huge endeavor. You've got to be considerate of everybody else. You've got to live your own self-confidence, your own comfort zone. And it's a bit like having children, actually, when you're a leader, because just because they're your children doesn't mean they're going to do what you want. You're thinking, well, it's my child, you should do what I want. He's a little version of me, you should just do what I want. But every time something goes wrong with the child, it's like a knife through your own heart. I remember there was one woman, she was discouraged me because I was late on getting married, and I was saying, do you think I should have a family? I see her every year. She's like the kind of white witch, kind of wise lady. She runs her home brew in Pamba Bridge, but she's quite wise. She put it down my bush and she keen. I always remember she said, children completely different to what you want. They'll do whatever they want. There's no lot of advice that you can give them. She said, but every time something goes wrong with them, it's like a knife through your own heart. It's like having another limb on your body, and it's just doing anything it wants. But every time it gets her, you feel the pain. Although you think, well, it's my appendage, it's going to tell me to at least do what I want to do. No, I'm just going to go like this. So that's the joys of taking charge of people, and that's why you become very lean, become very advanced. You take responsibility, and then you make more advancement. But it's not easy. That's the whole thing. So if it was easy, then what would be the advancement? If it's not if there's no pressure, then what are you building up? This facade of working out and training, there's nothing really happening here. You walk down the road, somebody throws you a weight, you go to catch it, because you're weak, you haven't become strong. So Krishna, because he's the expectation of time and circumstance, he puts devotees in particular situations to learn particular things, and he even puts them with particular devotees. It's no accident that we're all together. We've all collected together in the Sangha, and Sangha means body, and so we are limbs of the body, so that's quite intimate, really, whether we like it or not. We may, due to our impersonal tendencies, not like it at times. It's interesting because the very thing we want is close intimacy, and it's the very thing we distance ourselves at the same time. So it's like a kind of dual function there. I'm going to distance myself to protect myself, but at the same time I want intimacy, some kind of repelling. So but we can learn to override that impersonal tendency and interact with each other nicely. Then, as a body, we can do amazing things. And we have to remember the body's only got one head. Any other questions or comments? Yes. If we
deliberately seek some challenging situation,
well,
situation yourself.
when if you're at the gym, you usually have a trainer, and the trainers, he can see your potential. You know, you need a trainer. And who's this one guy? He used to train, and he used to train in front of the mirror. He must have only had the top off of the mirror because he had this massive body and these tiny little legs. You know, he hadn't like a. He said, "I've created this body myself." So going from and from the waist down, which is like a normal pair of legs, it looked like they like changed the picture up and someone put their own legs on there. Now, if you'd had a trainer, the trainer would have been saying, "Okay, do you take it easy on the biceps today. Let's not looking at the whatever it is in your legs. You've got a little leg muscles. You're trying to get it a bit balanced." You know? So if the trainer's already, if the trainer's already well toned and he's steady and he's been around for a while, then you know, okay, well this guy knows what he's talking about. He knows the ropes. He's done all this, you know. So he'll tell me now, go and do half an hour on the dumbbells. You know? So you need a trainer. Otherwise, you could have this crazy idea that you really want to make the arm pretty strong. You know, you're walking around, you're a normal guy with this massive right arm. And you can pass out loads of books, but you can't do much else. You know? Give you a brush and you keep slapping the brush if you're in the house just so you can't do anything you see. So it is quite well rounded actually. You will find in devotional service you get a chance to try everything. Krishna, any prestige you have of thinking, that's not really my department.
Reason it's not necessary to perform austerities or penances. This is service, so if we engage in the Lord's service, then probably the preaching needs austerity. That was in relation to devotees were trying to stop Prabhupada going through the program because he wasn't well, and he's told Prabhupada to be pure steer, and the preaching needs austerity. And then on another occasion, just to balance that out, those who are doing unnecessary austerities, Prabhupada's preaching or austerity. So sometimes preaching is not austerity at all. As you make one of a kirtan and a feast, and everybody's loving it, and other times they battle and get illness, battle in mind, whatever. It's prescribed duty is the thing. So if the austerities are there, then we accept them in the case of preaching with the people and use them. And so it's not a standing cold shower, chanting directly, to make it more troublesome.
Yeah, what it brings to mind actually at this specific moment in time is that what causes a lot of the austerity is the attitude. And if you change your attitude, you suddenly find the same thing. You can even be thinking, was this the thing I hate to do? How come I really like doing it? I've had that before. And all the time that you just change your attitude toward it. Yes, certainly it's within the confines of prescribed duty because if you go out with that, then it could be an ego to show others, you know. Everyone else is taking the shadow and you're fasting because it's a fasting. And you're looking and you're saying, oh, look at him. He's just so uncontrolled. He's just eating and so greedy, you know. And everyone else is you're fasting, but your false ego is feasting. So you're doing this extra austerity, and it's making you thinking about everybody else. So prescribed duty. which it kind of all falls under the heading of cooperation, learning to cooperate and give up our independent ideas of how we think things should work out, trying to second guess everything. And sometimes the person may make a mistake and you may have been right to have suggested this. And but the overall thing which is right is just to comply, to be malleable and just following what it is. Today there was an earthquake yesterday and we were going to go out and do books, but today we're going to have to throw boulders down the track so that if anyone drives up, they don't go falling over the cliff. So that's going to be what we're going to be doing today. So you have to be able to give up preconceived ideas of what you think should take place and fall in with whatever it is. You never know in Krishna consciousness what's coming up. We didn't see this pandemic coming. We just don't know what's coming up, and it's going to be interesting how we have to bounce back from all this now. How they're going to have to try and make up for all the loss in one way or another. So there's just so many factors involved, modes of material nature, there are all kinds of things on induction. So I have to just go with the program, whatever it is. But if we have a trainer and we're doing what we're being asked to do, then things work out. That's what personalism is all about, actually. And personalism is all about just leave me alone, I'll do what I want to do, And personalism is all about hearing, being open and hearing. So it's nice that, I don't know why it's mentioning Bhagavatam so much in this section, you know what that is?
Different varshas.
Oh, okay.
So in this varsha they worship Ramachandra.
Okay. Yeshua Prabhupada installed Ramachandra and the Maya because so many people from India they see Ramachandra as the Supreme God. So it's nice to meditate on Ramachandra. Any other questions or comments? Yes, please.
Another interesting point is the capacity of devotee. Speaking about Lord Ramachandra, there was this spider, skipping his dust, and Hanuman. So for Hanuman, throwing those boulders, that was usually the service to Ramachandra, and the spiders kicking the dust is also. So it's like you also need to kind of strike the balance to see what is the capacity of yourself, and on the other hand, try to do more, because it's two dynamics happening. On one side, you're satisfied and engaged in devotional service, and this is what I'm doing now. But I want to also increase, or Prabhupada said, double it, but still different people's capacity will be different. How much we can double it for that spider, double it will be two pieces of dust.
Yeah.
And for Hanuman, it will be like 2 massive boulders.
Yeah, and also what's significant there is that Lord Ramachandra was protecting Hanuman and sharing the appreciation so that Hanuman could also appreciate from Lord Ramachandra's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So that's bona fide to do that. To think, well, how is Krishna seeing this person is trying with all these different handicaps? So from Krishna's point of view, maybe he's appreciating it more. Maybe it's easy for me, actually. They say it's easier to do big on something than to do small. So maybe the person that's doing small, he doesn't get any recognition or aggrandizement. So maybe it's even more difficult for him to do that. And then you find out over time will tell by whose stage who can continue on. And if they can continue on over a long period of time and remain steady, then that's a different result, a better result than just doing something in the immediate, and then later going away. Well, what causes that?
There's another thing that causes frustration in material world, and also it can happen a devotee is like a comparing yourself with others. So of course you want to take inspiration and the practices, and the behavior, etc. that people do, and it can inspire you, but you may not be able to reach, what the other people do it because they just have a different capacity.
Yeah.
So that you can fill yourself with a lot of resentment and frustration, and you get
discouraged. Yeah. Don't compete with anyone else, compete with yourself. And also, I was explaining to somebody yesterday who was getting a little frustrated. You can't do everything, So maybe someone's really good at this, but they can't do all the things that you can do. There are certain things that you're also good at. And then generally, Krishna puts you in the situation which is best suited to you as well. So it's no accident that you're in the situation doing the service that you're doing, because Krishna's already earmarked you that this one will be good for this or that. And there may be things that you're doing that you didn't think you could do because you didn't realize you were aware of it, but Krishna was aware of it. So he decided to, if you look at the paintings from the early artists, you would think, and then you look at them years later and they've really like become amazing artists. So few people could see them and bring it out in person. So we should just, whatever Krishna situation, whatever it is you're doing as well, you can still take a pride in it, you can still do devotion, you can still be satisfied. And that's Krishna consciousness. If you have some ability and you can use that in Krishna service, then that's, or you may become empowered to have some ability in Krishna service. But generally, you get a chance to try everything and then find out as well what's what you're good at and what you're best suited to do. Anyway, I think it's a really nice verse, isn't it, for as a meditation as well, when we're going out. The real result is just that he's satisfied, and if he's satisfied, then we'll be successful. And we won't know whether we are successful until everything is to the very end of our life, whether we really were successful. So we're hoping as we go along that that's going to be the result that we attain when we go back to Godhead. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
To what extent do we see that there's so many different services and opportunities for doing different service?
Yeah.
Ultimately, in most it's just like a way to occupy us. Like Krishna created service to allow us to serve. So it's not that we're actually needed. How do you sort of understand other thinking, okay, this is really important for me to do? I see this is just...
Well, Krishna shows Arjuna that everything's already taken care of anyway. So Lord Chaitanya's already said his name will be spread. There was one devotee in Russia, and he was passing out these, bits of paper that had been stapled together. He photocopied the Bhagavad Gita. I think it was the Bhagavad Gita, and he was passing them out to people. And so the devotees went up to him and they said, "Oh, Hari Bol, wow. That's amazing, you're asking about Bhagavad Gita." And he said, he looked at him and he went, "Hari Bol, Prabhu," or how do you say it? Hari Bol, Prabhu. He said, "Do you want to come back and take some prasadam?" He didn't know what it was, he didn't know anything. He'd read the Bhagavad Gita and thought it was amazing, he wanted to just distribute it. So the devotee that was telling that story, Navina Narada, he was saying that Krishna consciousness will spread independently of anything or anyone, any institution or any person. It's kind of happened because Lord Chaitanya wants it to happen one way or another. Once the books go out, it will happen. And then Krishna says to Arjuna, "You just act as an instrument. You can be but an instrument in the fight. Just act as my instrument." And so that's what we need to do. We have to become submissive and open to whatever direction Krishna is giving us through the devotees and through our own intuition, and that this is what I'm to do, you know, and then not to identify ourselves as being the doer. You have a right to perform your duty. You shouldn't consider yourself the doer of your activities. So that takes practice. That's like trying to shave up in the mirror because your hand wants to go one way, you get used to the reflection going away. So we have a tendency to just immediately, when we do something, to take credit for it. It's just we're wired that way. And it takes a while to start allowing Krishna to act through us, and then not allow the false ego to take the credit for it. And if we're able to do that, then Krishna can do basic into us. But that really blocks the whole flow of energy. Every time we see the good happens, you see that kind of thing. And then when something goes wrong, then again it's you. So it's better to just be submissive and compliant and just act as an instrument in Krishna's hand. Okay. So I'll finish that. Let's go with the key.
Yeah.
Go about key.
Yeah.
Go with the go.
Yeah.
Go back to the